Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're really embarking on a truly global journey. We're going from the farthest reaches of space, where humanity is pushing these incredible technological boundaries.
Absolutely mind-blowing stuff happening out there.
Right back down here to Earth.
Yeah.
Where, well, things are complicated. Complex geopolitical struggles, big economic shifts, and some really pressing humanitarian crises unfolding.
It's quite the contrast, isn't it? You've got this amazing ingenuity on one hand and deep human conflict on the other, all happening at the same time.
It really is. A bit jarring sometimes.
Indeed. And our mission here, as always, is to be your shortcut to being, well, truly well-informed. We sift through that huge, often overwhelming amount of daily global news.
The fire hose of information.
Exactly. And we try to distill it into those crucial insights, maybe some surprising facts, and help you connect the dots, connect things that might seem totally separate across this landscape that can feel incredibly fragmented.
We're here to get to the why, right? Not just skim the what.
Precisely. Context is key.
Absolutely. So today's deep dive is going to be incredibly broad. We're covering everything from the real cutting edge of science and tech, think revolutionary space missions, AI's evolution, which is, let's be honest, sometimes controversial.
Definitely raises some big questions.
Then we'll navigate the intricate web of global politics and diplomacy, power plays, legal battles shaping alliances, international norms. It's a busy chessboard.
Very much so.
And of course, we'll dig into the crucial economic shifts impacting markets globally. And as always, the human stories. Resilience, challenge, triumph, the things shaping our world right now.
And our commitment always is to present multiple perspectives, impartially.
Yep. No taking sides here, just laying out the information, hopefully giving you, our listeners, more than a few of those genuine aha moments along the way.
And we get it. The source material for global news can be incredibly dense.
Yeah.
Nuanced.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes impenetrable.
So we'll navigate that complexity together. We'll aim for a discussion that's thoroughly analytical, pulling out the core insights, but also, and this is important, accessible, engaging.
We're not reading headlines at you. We're trying to understand the forces at play together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's dive in, too. Frontiers of innovation. Science, space, and AI's rapid evolution.
Okay, let's unpack this first big section and launch into the vast, sometimes awe-inspiring realm of innovation. We're starting by looking at how science, space exploration, and AI are just sprinting forward. It feels like breakneck speed sometimes.
It really does. And first up, some genuinely groundbreaking work from NASA. That's the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, of course.
Right. What are they up to?
Well, the NASA Ames Research Center out in California, they're really pushing the boundaries and how pilots are trained. They're developing these mixed reality systems.
Mixed reality. So like part real, part virtual.
Exactly. It essentially blends physical simulators, the cockpits and controls, with virtual reality or VR headsets.
Okay, I think I can picture that.
The goal is to create a training environment that's not just more immersive, making it feel more real, but also significantly more adaptable and cost-effective than the huge traditional flight simulators.
Right. Those giant machines must cost a fortune.
They do. So imagine you're a pilot. You're sitting in a fully functional physical cockpit simulator. You can touch the controls.
Okay.
But when you put on the VR headset, you see this dynamic virtual world overlaid onto those physical displays. Like the windows are showing you a virtual landscape, or maybe virtual instruments are projected.
Whoa. That sounds like something out of, I don't know, Iron Man or something.
It's getting there, and it's particularly designed for pilots training on these new electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, eVTOLs.
The air taxis we keep hearing about. The ones supposed to zip around cities.
Those are the ones, think hovering, maneuvering in complex urban environments. The initial feedback from pilots who've tried the system, overwhelmingly positive.
Really, what do they like about it?
They cited a more realistic, fluid, and importantly, intuitive experience compared to the sort of fixed scenarios you get in older simulators. It lets them practice complex maneuvers, emergency procedures.
In a really responsive way,
Yeah.
but totally safe because it's virtual.
Precisely. It's a huge step forward, not just for pilot skill, but also, like you said, logistics and cost.
Yeah, those old simulators must be nightmares to maintain.
Incredibly costly. Building, maintaining, operating them. By integrating VR, NASA can simulate a much wider range of scenarios, different aircraft types, weather conditions, all at a fraction of the cost.
Makes sense. So when do we see the results?
NASA plans to release the full test results next year, and these findings, they could genuinely pave the way for much broader applications, not just for these next-gen aircraft.
But maybe space, too?
Exactly. Training for complex space missions where, real-world practice is often impossible or just way too expensive.
Very cool. And speaking of air taxis and new frontiers, NASA engineers are also looking into using existing 5G cellular networks, like the network my phone uses, to support these things.
It sounds a bit wild, doesn't it? But yes, existing fifth generation or 5G technology.
How would that even work?
Well, the underlying goal is actually quite pragmatic. Why build entirely new, dedicated communication systems from scratch, which costs a fortune and takes ages?
When you can use what's already there.
Exactly. Leverage the existing robust wireless cell phone networks for aviation operations. The idea is it could make this urban air mobility concept much safer by seriously improving communication.
Communication between what? The taxis and the ground?
Between air traffic control and the individual aircraft, yes, but also potentially between the aircraft themselves, especially in what could become very, very busy city skies. Multi-layered traffic.
Okay, so it's like, imagine a busy highway where cars need to talk to each other to avoid accidents, but now they're flying. That's kind of the analogy here.
That's a pretty good analogy, actually. And NASA isn't trying to reinvent the wheel entirely. They're aiming for what they call an 80% solution with 5G.
Meaning?
Meaning their engineers believe they only need to adapt about 20% of the existing 5G tech specifically for aviation use. The other 80%, pretty much off the shelf.
That's efficient. Have they tested this?
Oh, yes. Extensive tests. They put specialized radio systems in a Pilatus PC-12 aircraft, that's a common utility plane, and also on building rooftops in urban areas.
Going on rooftops.
To meticulously study signal transmissions, reliability, latency, how quickly the signal gets through in real-world city environments with all the interference in buildings. This isn't just theory. They're building the practical framework now.
Fascinating. Okay, moving from city skies to getting new eyes on Earth itself. There's this upcoming satellite launch, NISR?
Yes, NISR. That stands for NASA ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar, and the ISR part is key. This is a huge joint mission between NASA and the Indian Space Research Organization.
A big collaboration. And synthetic aperture radar, SAR. That's not like a regular camera, is it?
Not at all. It's a remarkably powerful technology, unlike optical cameras, which need daylight and clear skies.
Right. Useless if it's cloudy or nighttime.
SAR actively sends out radio waves and then measures the echoes that bounce back, so it can penetrate clouds, darkness. It provides incredibly high-resolution data on Earth's land and ice surfaces, day or night, rain or shine.
Okay, that consistency sounds incredibly useful. So what are the biggest practical applications for that kind of data?
Oh, they're incredibly broad and impactful. Infrastructure monitoring is a big one.
Like checking bridges.
Exactly. Imagine detecting subtle shifts in bridge structures, dams, pipelines, long before they become critical failures. It's also vital for agriculture.
How so?
Analyzing fields for crop health, identifying areas needing irrigation, spotting disease outbreaks. That has direct implications for food security globally.
Wow, okay. What else?
Tracking the movement of land and ice. Absolutely vital for understanding geological shifts. Think earthquakes, volcanoes, and also monitoring glaciers and ice sheets, how they're changing, especially with climate change.
So it's geology, agriculture, infrastructure. Quite a range.
It really is. And this U.S.-India collaboration is a major step in civil space cooperation. It offers tangible benefits for disaster response, farming, both countries and globally.
When's it launching?
Scheduled for July 30th. And once it's operational, get this, it will scan the entire planet every 12 days.
The whole planet, every 12 days.
Building an unprecedented global data set over time.
That's incredible. Okay, then there's another NASA mission, Tracers. Sounds like something out of a spy novel.
It does have a cool name. TRACER stands for Twin Reconnection Explorer and CubeSat Research Satellites. Twin spacecraft launched together on a SpaceX Falcon 9 from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California.
Twin spacecraft. What's their mission?
They're designed to study how Earth's magnetic shield protects us from something called space weather.
Space weather.
Yeah.
Not like rain or snow, I take it.
No, not quite. It refers to the variable conditions out in space, mainly driven by the sun, that can seriously impact our technology here on Earth.
How so?
Well, Tracers is specifically looking at magnetic reconnection. Imagine magnetic field lines like stretched elastic bands. Sometimes they break, then snap back together, reconnecting and releasing colossal amounts of energy.
Ah, is this what causes the auroras? The northern and southern lights?
That's a big part of it, yes. That released energy slams into our atmosphere. But those same forces, those explosive events, they can also cause serious problems down here.
Like what kind of problems?
They can disrupt GPS signals, making navigation unreliable. They can overload power grids, causing blackouts, interfere with satellite communications, even pose radiation risks to astronauts.
Wow. So understanding this reconnection is pretty crucial.
Absolutely. Especially at Earth's polar cusps. These are sort of funnel-like regions where the magnetic field lines dip down towards the surface. That's where a lot of this explosive energy gets channeled. Tracers will gather something like 3,000 measurements in just 1 year.
3,000. That's a lot of data points.
To track how this magnetic reconnection changes over time, how it propagates through our magnetosphere, that's the region dominated by Earth's magnetic field. Understanding this fundamental process is key to protecting our tech, our grids, and future space travelers. It's our planet's invisible shield, and we need to know how it works.
Silent protector, doing its job. Okay, speaking of cosmic mysteries. Betelgeuse, the giant star. There's news.
Big news. A hypothesis that's been around for a century has finally been confirmed. Astrophysicists, again with leadership from NASA Ames, have confirmed that Betelgeuse is orbited by a very close companion star.
A companion. Betelgeuse isn't alone.
Apparently not. The companion has even been given a name, Siwarha.
How did they figure this out after 100 years?
Well, its existence was hinted at for decades. Betelgeuse does this weird thing where its brightness and velocity fluctuate.
Right. It dims and brightens unpredictably sometimes.
Exactly, and those fluctuations didn't quite fit the models for how a single red supergent star should behave. So, using the Gemini North Telescope in Hawaii, which has amazing resolution, they finally detected this faint companion orbiting really close near the edge of Betelgeuse itself.
So imagine having a secret sibling that occasionally makes you dim. Betelgeuse has been hiding its little partner all this time.
Kind of, and this discovery isn't just about Betelgeuse. It could fundamentally change how we look at other red supergiants, too.
How so?
Their dimmings, which we thought were maybe due to internal stuff like convection or pulsations, maybe some of that is actually caused by unseen companions passing in front or interacting with the giant star.
So it complicates the picture quite a bit.
It really does. It potentially alters our models for how these massive stars evolve, how they lose mass, even how we predict when they might go supernova. It suggests star systems might be more dynamic and interconnected than we assumed.
Just when you think you've got a handle on the universe.
It throws you a curveball. Or, in this case, a companion star.
Okay, let's pivot now. From the grand mysteries of the cosmos to a frontier, well, much closer to home, and one that's arguably shaping our present and future even more profoundly right now. Artificial intelligence.
Ah, yes, AI. Definitely a powerful force. And as you said, it presents both incredible promise and some significant policy challenges.
Let's start with the policy angle. The Trump White House has a specific AI strategy, right?
It does. It seems to prioritize locking out foreign tech, especially from China, and really emphasizing national security protections. The phrase used is trading guardrails for growth.
Guardrails for growth, meaning speed over safety checks, potentially.
That seems to be the implication. Accelerating AI development rapidly, maybe with fewer regulatory restraints, really focusing on outpacing geopolitical rivals like China.
And there's this new executive order mentioned targeting anti-woke AI. That sounds politically charged. What does that actually mean in practice?
It is politically charged, yes. The term anti-woke AI itself comes from concerns, mainly from conservative perspectives, that current AI models might reflect or even amplify perceived progressive biases or politically correct viewpoints.
Because they're trained on vast amounts of internet data, which reflects all sorts of views.
Exactly. So an executive order aiming for anti-woke AI would likely try to influence how these models are trained, maybe by curating data sets, removing content deemed ideologically problematic,
or adding content to steer it differently.
potentially, or adjusting the algorithm's ethical guardrails and content filters. The stated goal would be to produce AI that's seen as more ideologically neutral, or perhaps more aligned with conservative values, by actively trying to counteract those perceived biases.
Wow. That sounds incredibly complex and, frankly, controversial.
No, it is. It really opens the door to a potential politicization of AI development itself. And it highlights this inherent tension. How do you foster rapid innovation while also making sure AI aligns with broader societal values, especially when those values themselves are fiercely debated?
Right. Who gets to define what's biased or unbiased in AI? It's a huge question.
A fundamental one. It really pushes the boundaries.
Okay, shifting from policy to pure tech development. Meta, Facebook's parent company, their researchers are working on a gesture-controlled wristband.
Yes, this sounds pretty futuristic. A wristband that lets you interact with computers using gestures.
So, Minority Report style, waving your hands to control things.
It's something like that. It offers a much more hands-free, seamless way to operate devices. It uses something called electromyography.
Fancy word. What's that?
It basically reads the subtle electrical signals your nerves send from your wrist to your hand when you intend to make a movement. It translates those intended gestures into digital commands.
That's clever. What's the potential?
Huge potential, really. It could revolutionize how we interact with computers, especially in augmented reality, AR, and virtual reality, VR, where keyboards and mice are clumsy. Imagine navigating a virtual world or designing something in 3D just by moving your fingers or wrist.
Very cool. Okay. Meanwhile, Google, or Alphabet, their parent company, making big AI moves, but also hitting some speed bumps.
That seems fair to say. On the positive side, Sundar Pichai, Google's CEO, expressed real excitement about Google Cloud partnering with OpenAI.
OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT. That's a big partnership.
Highly strategic for Google Cloud. Integrating OpenAI's powerful language models directly into their cloud services means they can offer enterprise clients even more advanced AI tools. It's expected to drive a lot of innovation in that business AI space.
Making sophisticated AI easier for companies to use.
Yeah, that's the goal.
And on the consumer side, Google's rolling out new AI video tools in YouTube Shorts and Google Photos.
Yes, allowing users to create videos from photos, add AI effects.
Right.
Basically making content creation more accessible, more dynamic.
But then the reality check you mentioned. An internal AI coding challenge didn't go so well.
Right. Google engineers themselves described the initial results from a new AI coding challenge as far from satisfactory.
Ouch.
Well,
So AI writing code isn't quite there yet.
well, it's excellent at generating code snippets based on prompts, but this highlights the complexity beyond just writing the lines. Even with perfectly generated AI code, you still need substantial human work.
Like what?
Meticulous reviewing for logic errors, debugging, ensuring security, that's huge optimizing for performance, and extensive real-world testing. It's a crucial reminder.
So AI is a powerful assistant coder, maybe.
That's a good way to put it. A very powerful tool for code generation and automation, but human oversight, critical thinking, validation, they remain absolutely essential for quality, reliable, secure software. The human programmer's job is changing, not vanishing.
Huh. So AI is great at writing the first draft, but it still needs a human editor to make it actually work properly. Good to know our jobs aren't quite obsolete yet.
Not quite yet, no. 3. Geopolitical chessboard. Power, protests, and precedents.
Okay, from the cutting edge of tech, we now dive headfirst into the intricate, often turbulent world of global politics. High-stakes chess, definitely. Decisions made here ripple everywhere. Let's start in the U.S. investigations, executive power, some big legal battles.
Right. We saw the Trump administration initiate a pretty high-profile investigation into Harvard University's Scholar Exchange Program, specifically the Exchange Visitor Program.
That's the program that brings academics and others over for cultural exchange, right? Why investigate that?
Well, Secretary of State Marco Rubio publicly cited concerns over U.S. national security and compliance with national interests. That was the official reason given.
Okay, but is there an underlying context?
It's widely seen as part of a broader effort by the administration to enforce its policies, particularly regarding free speech debates and the pro-Palestinian movements that have become quite visible on Ivy League campuses like Harvard.
So it ties into those campus controversies. What's happened with the investigation?
It's led to ongoing legal challenges from Harvard. Some initial funding cuts were threatened or imposed, restrictions on their operations. It's created this contentious standoff. Negotiations are reportedly still trying to resolve the implications for academic freedom versus government oversight.
A tricky balance. Okay, moving on. The Epstein files. That saga just keeps going, doesn't it?
It really does. It continues to generate significant political heat. The Trump administration controversially released some documents that seemed aimed at the Obama administration amidst all the ongoing criticism related to Jeffrey Epstein.
And wasn't there something about Trump himself being told his name was in the files?
Yes, reports indicated President Trump was informed by his legal team, Pam Bondi specifically, that his name appeared in Epstein's files. And the Department of Justice had apparently also notified him directly back in May.
Wow, okay. This escalated quickly too, right? Accusations flying.
Oh, absolutely. It became a full-blown political firestorm. Accusations of treason were even leveled against former President Obama.
Treason. Seriously?
Yes. And reports surfaced claiming that Russian President Vladimir Putin had preferred Trump in the 2016 election, and that these intelligence reports were allegedly pushed for publication by John Brennan, the former CIA director.
Even with objections inside the agency.
That's what was reported, yes,
Yeah.
despite internal objections. Which led Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, to publicly call for a criminal investigation into what she called a fabricated narrative. Just shows the deep divisions and mistrust around intelligence.
It's incredibly complex, isn't it? How this whole issue is being used by both sides.
It really is. It's being leveraged politically, left and right, to accuse the other side of wrongdoing or cover-ups. And it highlights just how difficult it is to handle declassified information, legal transparency, especially with such high-profile, politically charged stuff.
And the courts got involved, too, trying to get more files unsealed.
Yes, but a federal judge in Florida, Robin Rosenberg, denied the DOJ's request to unseal more Epstein grand jury transcripts. She cited the critical need for secrecy in sensitive, ongoing criminal investigations.
So, a setback for those wanting everything out in the open immediately.
A significant setback for the administration's push to release those specific files unilaterally, yes.
And Congress is involved, too.
The House Oversight Subcommittee voted to subpoena the DOJ for more Epstein files. There's apparently something of a rebellion, as it was described, among some members over how federal agencies are handling all these Epstein-related issues.
So this story, definitely not over yet. Far from it.
Seems unlikely to fade away soon.
Okay, shifting to another university, Columbia. They reached a big settlement with the Trump administration.
Yes. Columbia University agreed to pay a substantial amount, over $200 million. Some sources even put it at $220 million in a settlement.
Why? What was the dispute about?
It was related to alleged civil rights violations on campus, specifically claims of rising anti-Semitism and harassment against Jewish students.
Okay, so what's the outcome of the settlement?
Well, first, federal grants to Columbia, which had been frozen during the investigation, are reinstated. That's crucial funding.
And in return?
Columbia commits to implementing significant reforms. Policies and procedures aimed at addressing harassment against Jewish students, ensuring a more inclusive campus environment.
How is this being viewed more broadly?
It's definitely seen by the Trump administration as a victory, sort of asserting a federal influence over higher education. And it certainly sets a precedent. It could have wider implications for other universities across the U.S., establishing a model for how these kinds of complaints might be investigated and resolved under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act going forward.
Interesting. We also saw some important Supreme Court rulings affecting executive power.
Yes, a couple of significant ones. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of President Trump's authority to remove 3 Democratic members from the Consumer Product Safety Commission.
The CPSC. What's the significance of that?
It effectively gives the president more direct control over independent regulatory agencies like that. It reversed a lower court ruling that had tried to limit that presidential removal power, so it consolidates more power within the executive branch.
Okay. But on the flip side, a check on executive power regarding birthright citizenship.
That's right. A federal appeals court ruled definitively against Trump's controversial attempt to end birthright citizenship via executive order. The court stated flatly it was unconstitutional.
And other courts had agreed.
Yes, this aligned with rulings from multiple courts across the country that had already blocked that order. It really reinforces the long-standing legal interpretation of the 14th Amendment on birthright citizenship.
Okay, let's turn our focus now across the Atlantic to the shifting landscape of the Ukraine conflict. Things seem complex there, both militarily and politically.
Very much so. The diplomatic and internal political battles are proving just as intense as what's happening on the front lines.
We're hearing about backlash against President Zelensky's anti-corruption efforts. That sounds counterintuitive.
It does, but a new law has been enacted that critics argue actually curtails the independence of key anti-corruption bodies. Specifically, NABU, the National Anti-Corruption Bureau, and SAPR, the Special Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office.
How does it curtail their independence?
By placing them under the control of political appointees, rather than maintaining their operational autonomy.
And how has that gone down?
Not well in some quarters. It sparked major anti-government protests in several Ukrainian cities. These are actually the first significant protests of their kind since the full-scale Russian invasion began.
Wow, that's notable. What about internationally? Ukraine relies heavily on Western support.
International partners have voiced strong concerns. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, Kyiv's closest allies, they've warned this move risks Ukraine's path towards EU membership.
which is a huge goal for Ukraine.
Absolutely. And it could also affect Western aid. Much of that aid is explicitly conditional on Ukraine upholding transparency and judicial reforms. Anti-corruption efforts are central to that.
So what are the accusations against Zelensky?
Critics, both inside Ukraine and internationally, are accusing him of an authoritarian slide. Consolidating power under the cover of wartime necessity, maybe even human rights infringements. Some suggest a double strategy, meaning trying to appease the US and EU with reforms on paper while simultaneously tightening his grip on power domestically.
Huh. It's quite the irony, isn't it? Weakening anti-corruption bodies while you're trying to join the EU and preparing for eventual peace talks, all while needing Western money that demands transparency. Yeah. That's a difficult balancing act.
It creates a deeply challenging narrative for Ukraine to manage on the global stage, yes.
Speaking of peace talks, there was another round in Istanbul, in Turkey.
Yes, the third round, but concluded with what was described as limited progress, and it lasted less than an hour.
Less than an hour? That doesn't sound promising. What did come out of it?
Well, Russia's top negotiator, Vladimir Medinsky, stated Russia had fulfilled its humanitarian commitments, offering to hand over 3,000 more bodies of fallen Ukrainian soldiers, proposing a new prisoner swap, suggesting ceasefires for evacuations.
Okay, some humanitarian gestures proposed.
Yes. Moscow also invited Ukraine to set up online working groups to continue discussing specific points.
What about a meeting between Putin and Zelensky? That's often talked about.
Medinsky was quite clear on that. He emphasized that leaders should only meet after a comprehensive peace treaty is finalized, just for signing it, not negotiating it.
So hammer out all the details first, then the leaders sign.
Exactly. He stressed the need for clear terms, a set agenda beforehand. He even referenced historical examples where high-level meetings without prior agreement failed to end conflicts. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov echoed that agreement first, then summit.
Did Moscow mention any conditions for a lasting ceasefire?
They did, including lifting martial law in Ukraine and holding new elections within a specific time frame, which of course raises very complex questions about Zelensky's current mandate and Ukraine's future political landscape under such conditions.
Yeah, that sounds fraught. Okay, shifting focus slightly within the conflict dynamics. Senator Lindsey Graham in the U.S. His stance has evolved, hasn't it?
It certainly has. He was once a very vocal critic of Donald Trump, but now he's become a key ally and notably a very prominent, very strong advocate for military support to Ukraine.
What drives that strong stance?
Well, his background is definitely a factor. He's known as a defense hawk, has strong military ties from his time in the Air Force JAG Corps. It shapes his foreign policy view. He's become a proponent of what some might call a radical approach for Ukraine.
Radical how?
Endorsing direct strikes into Russian territory, advocating for severe, crippling sanctions against Russia. His unwavering support seems to stem from a long-standing hostility towards Russia and a firm belief in backing Ukraine against what he sees as unprovoked aggression. A fight for democracy.
A very clear position. And we've also seen Ukraine taking action inside Russia itself recently. Drone attacks.
Yes, Ukrainian drones targeted the Black Sea resort city of Sochi, a major tourist spot and symbolic location for Russia, and also the serious educational hub nearby in southern Russia.
And their damage? Casualties?
Reports indicate one civilian was killed, another injured. Evacuations were conducted in the affected areas.
And the timing is interesting, right? Coming after those peace talks?
The timing is notable, yes. It adds another layer of tension, certainly. But it also demonstrates Ukraine's capability to strike deeper into Russian territory than perhaps previously assumed, signaling that maybe no region is entirely safe. It's a psychological blow as much as a physical one.
A reminder, the conflict isn't just contained to Ukraine's borders.
Okay, let's turn our attention now to the Middle East, a region facing, well, immense challenges. The situation in Gaza, the humanitarian crisis sounds truly desperate.
It's deepening dramatically, reaching catastrophic levels. It's hard to overstate the severity. We're hearing reports that doctors in Gaza are becoming so weak themselves from malnutrition and exhaustion that they are literally too frail to treat patients.
My goodness, that's horrifying.
It is. More than 100 aid groups have issued stark warnings of mass starvation. 10 new starvation deaths were reported recently, tragically bringing the total number of deaths directly attributed to hunger to 111 since October 2023.
And aid groups are pointing fingers. They are explicitly and consistently blaming what they describe as Israel's siege for depleting aid supplies and blocking access for vital humanitarian assistance. They point to continuous Israeli attacks and severe restrictions on aid entry and distribution as the primary drivers.
We're hearing stories about children.
Heartbreaking stories emerge daily. Children suffering severe hunger, dying from malnutrition. Organizations are describing it as a slow, painful death playing out in real time. The head of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros, has unequivocally warned of man-made mass starvation, underscoring that this is preventable.
And experts have been warning about famine risk for months now. Are ceasefire talks making any progress?
Efforts are ongoing, absolutely. Mediated by Qatar, Egypt, the U.S. trying to secure a Gaza ceasefire and a captive release deal. But progress remains incredibly slow, frustratingly slow, given the scale of the humanitarian catastrophe unfolding.
Meanwhile, in Israel itself, the parliament took a significant step regarding the West Bank.
Yes, the Knesset approved a symbolic motion, though the vote was decisive, 71-13. It calls for applying Israeli sovereignty to Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley areas internationally known as the West Bank.
Symbolic, but what are the concerns around this?
Well, this idea, pushed hard by Israel's far-right ministers, is seen by many international observers, and certainly by Palestinians, as a direct threat to the possibility of a viable Palestinian state. Critics call it a direct assault on Palestinian rights, something that fundamentally undermines prospects for peace and stability.
So it could escalate tensions even further, make a two-state solution harder.
That's the major concern, yes. It significantly hinders that framework, which most of the international community still supports as the path to peace.
And international pressure on Israel seems to be growing in other ways too, Brazil joining the ICJ case.
That's right. Brazil announced its intention to join South Africa's case against Israel at the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, alleging genocide in Gaza.
Why did Brazil decide to join?
Their Ministry of Foreign Affairs stated it was based on the urgent need for international action against ongoing atrocities in Palestine. They feel the situation warrants intervention under international law.
And other countries are involved too.
Yes, it adds to growing pressure. Spain, Turkey, which is how Turkey now prefers to be known internationally, the Republic of Ireland. They are also seeking ways to hold Israel accountable under the 1948 Genocide Convention. Brazil's president, Lula da Silva, has himself been very outspoken, publicly condemning Israel's actions as genocide, which caused quite a diplomatic stir.
Has the ICJ ruled on the genocide claim yet?
No, crucially, the ICJ has not yet made a final ruling on the merits of the case, but the proceedings themselves represent a significant legal and diplomatic challenge for Israel.
And the U.S. position amidst all this?
Despite these mounting international warnings, the legal case, accusations of rights abuses, the United States has largely maintained its strong diplomatic and military support for Israel, often emphasizing Israel's right to self-defense.
Okay, let's shift focus slightly, looking at some evolving regional dynamics. Starting with Armenia and the U.S. and the South Caucasus. Some strange claims were leaked.
Yes, rather intriguing, though disputed, claims surfaced in Spanish media. The Armenian government has strongly refuted them as disinformation. But the report alleged Armenia might hand over control of a 42-kilometer corridor through its territory to the United States.
A corridor managed by the U.S., where would it go?
It would strategically connect Azerbaijan with its exclave, Nakhchivan, which is separated from mainland Azerbaijan by Armenian territory.
And the alleged terms were specific.
Very specific. The leak claimed the deal would involve a U.S. company managing the area, employing around 1,000 private contractors for security for 99 years.
99 years. That's almost as long as some of our streaming subscriptions, but with slightly higher geopolitical stakes. How is this described?
The Spanish outlet Periodista Digital called it a significant loss for Armenia in terms of sovereignty.
If this were true, and again, Armenia denies it, what would the impact be?
Oh, profound. Seismic geopolitical consequences for the major powers in the region. Iran, Russia, China, Turkey. It would fundamentally alter trade routes, spheres of influence, potentially causing a major destabilizing realignment in the South Caucasus, where these powers have historically maintained a complex, often uneasy balance.
So even if it's not true, the suggestion itself is significant.
Exactly. It might align with a broader trend people observe of the U.S., using non-traditional means economic deals, security arrangements, rather than direct military presence, to shape regional dynamics and perhaps counter Russian or Iranian influence. The strong denial from Armenia shows just how sensitive and potentially disruptive this kind of idea is.
Okay, elsewhere in the region, a border clash between Thailand and Cambodia.
Yes, unfortunately, a fresh flare-up. It happened at a disputed border area near the Tamon Tom Temple, which is in northwestern Cambodia's Udar Minchi province.
What happened? Who started it?
Well, as often happens in these situations, there are conflicting accounts. Thailand's military reported that Cambodian troops initiated the clash by opening fire. Cambodia reportedly responded by deploying a surveillance drone and heavy weapons, which suggests an escalation.
Is this area often disputed?
Sadly, yes. This is part of a long-standing, sometimes violent border dispute between Thailand and Cambodia. It's claimed lives over the years, particularly around ancient temple sites like Preah Vihear and others that both nations claim historical ownership of. It really highlights the fragile peace there and the constant need for diplomatic efforts to prevent these local skirmishes blowing up.
A reminder of unresolved tensions.
Yeah.
And finally, a big diplomatic anniversary. EU-China relations turning 50.
Yes, 50 years of diplomatic relations marked by a high-level summit in Beijing.
A celebration then. Happy anniversary.
Well, despite the anniversary, the atmosphere was widely described in reports as tense. Expectations for concrete deals or major breakthroughs were apparently quite low.
Why so tense? What's on the agenda?
It's packed and contentious. Ongoing trade disputes, especially over critical materials like rare earth elements, which China dominates, Russia's war in Ukraine, where the EU wants China to exert more pressure on Moscow, Middle East tensions, and of course, ongoing human rights issues in China.
So, a lot of difficult topics.
Definitely. And this meeting is crucial for both sides, especially for the EU, trying to navigate its relationship with China while also dealing with escalating tariff tensions with the U.S. It's a very complex balancing act. Economic interdependence versus strategic competition and value differences.
IV, economic currents and market movements.
All right, let's shift gears and navigate the ever-shifting waters of global economics and market movements. Trade deals, corporate earnings, lots going on. First up, some big trade deals or potential deals moving the markets.
Indeed. Former President Trump finalized a pretty crucial trade deal with Japan right before a tariff deadline hit. And that news definitely boosted market optimism. How much of a boost?
The Dow Jones Industrial Average jumped quite a bit. Reports said 400 to 500 points. And the S&P 500 hit another record high. Investors clearly like the reduced trade uncertainty.
There was some controversy around that deal too, wasn't there? Something about a marker.
Yes, that was an odd detail that surfaced. Reports, citing inside sources, claim that some information related to the Japan trade deal, specifically documents on Trump's desk, had been manually altered with a marker.
Altered how? What information?
The specifics weren't entirely clear, but it certainly raised questions about transparency and the integrity of the final agreement process. And domestically, the deal wasn't universally popular.
Who opposed it?
U.S. automakers expressed significant opposition. They argued the 15% tariff deal, particularly on auto parts, put them at a distinct disadvantage compared to Japanese manufacturers.
Why a disadvantage?
They felt the terms favored Japanese imports. And their concern was apparently compounded by what they described as an unprecedented side deal, an investment fund involving Japan that potentially expanded Trump's influence. It suggests a complex web of agreements.
Okay. Meanwhile, the U.S. was also negotiating with the EU on tariffs.
Yes, simultaneously, the U.S. and the European Union were reportedly nearing a separate 15% tariff deal. The aim there was really to de-escalate the trade tensions that had built up significantly.
But Europe was preparing for the worst, just in case.
They were. Europe wasn't just sitting back. They were reportedly considering using a trade bazooka as a last resort if talks failed. And Trump went ahead with potential threats of even higher, maybe 30%, tariffs on European goods.
A trade bazooka? That sounds intense. What does that actually mean?
It's a colloquial term, obviously, but it refers to a package of strong, retaliatory trade measures Europe could deploy. Think targeted tariffs on specific, politically sensitive U.S. products like bourbon or motorcycles, legal challenges at the World Trade Organization, maybe even state aid to European companies hit hard by U.S. tariffs.
So they had a serious contingency plan.
Oh, yes. They were also reportedly preparing a massive $100 billion, that's about $107 billion US dollars no-deal plan, designed to cushion the economic blow across Europe if negotiations completely collapsed and a full-blown trade war erupted.
And European leaders were united on this.
There was a strong show of unity. German politician Friedrich Merz, French President Emmanuel Macron, they presented a united front. It signaled a cohesive European position, aiming to maximize their negotiating leverage.
Got it. And one more positive trade note. Australia lifted restrictions on U.S. beef.
Yes, that was a significant development. Australia lifted its biosecurity restrictions on beef imports from the U.S. This removed a key point of friction for the Trump administration and was seen as a tangible positive step in bilateral trade relations. Opens up a lucrative market for American ranchers.
Good news for them. Okay, let's move to corporate earnings and industry trends. Starting with Tesla. Mixed signals there.
Definitely mixed. Tesla's profits actually declined by a noticeable 16% in their latest quarter, and they missed revenue estimates, which surprised some analysts.
A 16% profit drop. That's significant. What happened to revenue?
Their auto revenue dropped for the second quarter in a row, and this was reportedly the steepest drop in quarterly revenue they've seen in over a decade.
Wow. Why the slump? Isn't the EV market supposed to be booming?
That's the common narrative, but the reality seems more complex. The decline is primarily attributed to a slump in EV sales, particularly in key markets. Competition is heating up significantly from traditional automakers finally rolling out their EVs.
So more choices for consumers now.
Exactly. Plus, maybe some ongoing consumer concerns about charging infrastructure, range anxiety, and the higher upfront cost of EVs compared to gasoline cars, especially with economic uncertainty.
Despite the slump, Tesla still has big plans, right? A cheaper model.
Yes. Despite the miss, they're sticking to ambitious plans. They aim to introduce a more affordable model by 2025. They say first builds are already underway. It's a strategic pivot towards the mass market.
And Elon Musk's focus? Still on robotaxis.
His renewed focus on his core companies is noted, and yes, the emphasis on developing and eventually deploying robotaxis is still highlighted as a potential future growth driver, though that vision is clearly still some years away from being a large-scale reality.
Okay, what about Google's parent company, Alphabet? Better news there.
A somewhat different story, yes. Alphabet reported second quarter earnings that actually surpassed analyst estimates, so positive news on the earnings front.
Did the stock react well?
Interestingly, it initially slid a bit right after the report came out, but then it increased as the company outlined ambitious spending plans for the future. That signaled strong confidence in growth and big investments, especially in AI.
So AI is key to their success.
It seems to be. Their continued success is largely attributed to using AI technologies effectively across all their services: search, cloud computing, advertising. It enhances performance, drives user engagement, and that translates into revenue.
And speaking of revenue, YouTube's ad revenue. Huge growth.
Massive growth. YouTube's advertising revenue surged to nearly $10 billion in the second quarter alone. That's a significant 13% year-over-year growth, as detailed in Alphabet's Q2 report.
$10 billion in one quarter just from ads.
It's a huge number. It really underscores YouTube's dominant position in the streaming video world, shows they're incredibly successful at monetizing their massive global audience and content library, a huge contributor to Alphabet's bottom line.
Dominant indeed. Okay, looking at the startup funding world now, some interesting, maybe even slightly weird things happening. Troubled SPAC buying a rocket startup.
Yes, this one definitely raises eyebrows. There's a special purpose acquisition company, or SPAC, described as troubled, that plans to buy iRocket. iRocket is an unproven small launch startup. The deal is valued at $400 million.
What makes the SPAC troubled, and why is this risky?
Well, for listeners, a SPAC is basically a shell company. It goes public through an IPO to raise money with the sole purpose of finding and merging with a private company, taking it public without a traditional IPO. Troubled usually means it's nearing its deadline, typically 2 years to find a deal, and critically, most of its initial investors have already redeemed their cash because they didn't like the prospects or couldn't find a good target.
So the SPAC is almost empty.
It has very little capital left.
Yeah.
So when such a SPAC proposes to buy an unproven startup like iRocket for $400 million, it looks, well, potentially desperate. It suggests they're trying to find any deal to avoid liquidating entirely.
And possibly overvaluing iRocket.
That's the major concern. Potentially valuing iRocket far above its actual operational status and exposing any remaining SPAC investors to substantial risk and dilution. It's a very high-stakes gamble in a speculative part of the market.
That's dicey. Okay, what else in startup land? An exclusive summit.
Yes, former experts from Y Combinator, the very famous startup incubator, and Andreessen Horowitz, or A16s, a top-tier venture capital firm, are holding a small, invite-only summit for founders.
Invite only. Sounds exclusive.
Highly exclusive. It brings together a carefully selected group of promising startup founders with some of the most influential people in VC and startup acceleration. The goal is high-level networking, strategic advice, maybe scouting the next big thing. Unparalleled access for those invited.
And Mastodon, the social media platform. A new funding model.
Yes, Mastodon, the open-source platform often seen as an ex-rival or Twitter alternative, introduced a new in-app donation feature.
Donations,
Yeah.
not ads.
Exactly. It aligns with their open source philosophy. Unlike platforms relying on ads or big VC money, Mastodon emphasizes community control, transparency. This lets them raise funds directly from users who value the platform, supporting infrastructure without compromising privacy or core values. A different path to sustainability.
Interesting model. Finally, in entertainment, South Park.
Yeah.
A massive new deal.
Massive is right. The creators of South Park, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, signed a new overall deal reportedly worth a staggering $1.5 billion.
$1.5 billion for South Park.
Yep. The deal moves the show exclusively to the Paramount Plus streaming service, and it ensures viewers get 50 new episodes plus exclusive specials and movies.
Wow, that just shows the enduring power and value of that show, doesn't it? In this streaming war era, established hits are gold.
Absolutely. It reflects the immense value of popular, long-running intellectual property.
And just to remind everyone of their unique brand of humor, the season 27 premiere apparently had Donald Trump back in the White House and, quote, in bed with Satan.
Classic South Park. Never afraid to be provocative or satirical about current events, no matter how controversial. They've certainly mastered that art over the decades.
Still pushing buttons after all these years. V. Global health and societal pressures. Okay, let's shift our focus now to global health and some of the broader societal pressures shaping communities around the world. Unfortunately, starting with some not-so-great news on the COVID front in the U.S., cases are rising again in the summer.
Yes, unfortunately. Recent data from the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, shows a clear spike in summer COVID-19 cases across the U.S.
Where specifically?
Well, the tri-state area, that's New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, is seeing a particularly noticeable summer surge. But overall, 27 states are reporting rising infection numbers.
Huh. Even in summer. What does this mean?
It's prompting renewed questions about, vaccine urgency, whether booster recommendations need updating, and just general public health preparedness as we eventually head towards the fall and winter again. It's a reminder it hasn't entirely gone away.
Right. And on the vaccine front itself.
Yeah.
Some controversy involving Robert F. Kennedy Jr. regarding thimerosal.
Yes, he recently rescinded his endorsement of flu vaccines that contain thimerosal. Thimerosal is a mercury-based preservative that has been falsely linked to autism in the past.
Falsely linked.
Yeah.
So the science doesn't support that link.
No. It's crucial to state that this decision was made despite overwhelming scientific consensus. Decades of rigorous studies show no credible evidence of harm from thimerosal in vaccines. It's considered safe.
So why rescind the endorsement?
It's complex. He has expressed approval for thimerosal-free flu vaccines. This policy shift, reportedly pushed by Health Secretary Kennedy with the stated goal of removing the preservative from all U.S. vaccines. Well, it caters to a segment of the public with persistent, scientifically unfounded concerns about vaccine ingredients.
Even though thimerosal isn't really used much in childhood vaccines anymore in the U.S.?
Right, it was largely phased out of those back in 2001, though it is still present in some multi-dose flu vaccine vials. So this move seems more like a political response to public perception, perhaps, rather than being driven by current scientific necessity.
Interesting dynamic. Okay, broader healthcare system strain. We're seeing that globally, like in the UK with cancer treatment delays.
Yes, that's a really concerning example. Recent headlines in the UK highlighted what they called crushing cancer treatment delays. And this was directly attributed to ongoing doctor strikes there.
Strikes leading to cancer treatment delays. That sounds incredibly serious.
It is a dire situation for patients. These strikes stem from disputes over pay, working conditions, staffing levels within the NHS, the National Health Service, but the result is thousands of canceled appointments and operations, including critical cancer treatments.
The impact must be devastating for those patients.
Profound and immediate impact. Increased anxiety, potentially worsened prognosis. It really underscores the fragility of healthcare systems when they face workforce disputes or resource shortages. Even essential services get severely disrupted.
And it's not just physical health, is it? Mental health concerns seem to be rising too, especially among students.
Yes, we're seeing a significant rise in the number of university students reporting mental health challenges, and many are saying their institutions are failing us.
Failing them how? Not enough support.
That seems to be the core issue. Students feel overwhelmed. Academic pressure, financial stress, social isolation, general anxiety, often made worse by a lack of accessible or adequate support services on campus.
And universities are struggling to cope.
They often acknowledge the problem but struggle with funding, staffing, just the sheer scale of the demand for mental health support. It raises this really important question about responsibility.
Right. How much responsibility do universities have? Is it just academics or holistic well-being?
That's the debate. Especially since mental health profoundly impacts academic performance and whether students even stay in school. It's a global conversation as educational institutions grapple with the broader needs of their students.
Okay, on a slightly different health note, those self-test kits you can buy in stores, maybe not always accurate.
That's what a recent study suggests, and it's an important point for consumers. The study found significant variability in the accuracy of these direct-to-consumer health kits.
What kind of kits are we talking about?
A wide range. Tests for allergies, nutrient deficiencies, even indicators for more serious conditions.
And if they're inaccurate, that's a problem.
A serious problem. It can lead to misdiagnosis, getting false reassurance when you actually need medical help, or unnecessary anxiety, maybe even trying inappropriate self-treatments based on a faulty result.
So the takeaway is, don't rely solely on a kit you bought online for a diagnosis.
Absolutely. They might be convenient, maybe a starting point for a conversation, but they are not a substitute for consulting a qualified healthcare professional and getting proper clinical diagnosis and testing.
Good advice.
Okay.
Okay, let's broaden the lens again to environmental sustainability. A huge, urgent global challenge. Humanity is using resources faster than the Earth can regenerate them.
Tragically, yes. Humanity's consumption of ecological resources and services has surpassed Earth's capacity to regenerate them in a given year. And this isn't new. This trend dates back to the early 1970s.
The 1970s. So for 50 years, we've been in overshoot.
Essentially, yes. Every year since then has been an overshoot year, where we use more than the planet can sustainably provide in that year. The day this happens each year is called Earth Overshoot Day.
And the consequences are becoming clearer.
More evident and more severe all the time. Massive deforestation, irreversible loss of biodiversity, escalating carbon emissions driving climate change, accelerated depletion of vital resources like fresh water and fertile soil, accumulation of waste.
It's not just an environmental issue anymore, is it?
Not at all.
Yeah.
It's a profound economic and social threat. It impacts global stability, food security, human well-being. It really emphasizes the urgent need for genuinely sustainable practices, better resource management, fundamentally changing how we live and consume to ensure a habitable future.
And you mentioned earlier, this is becoming a legal issue too. Countries potentially suing each other over climate change.
That's the really groundbreaking development. The top United Nations court, the International Court of Justice, ICJ, made a truly seismic ruling recently. They stated that countries can sue each other over climate change.
Wow. So what does that mean legally?
It means the court declared that governments have a legal obligation under international law to address climate change, and crucially, major polluters may now be held legally liable for reparations for climate harm caused to other nations.
Reparations. So paying for the damage caused by their emission.
That's the implication, yes. The ruling suggests that existing international treaties require wealthy, industrialized nations, historically the largest emitters, to limit global warming. And now there's a potential legal enforcement mechanism beyond just political pressure or voluntary pledges.
This must be huge for developing nations.
Absolutely. Those nations often most at risk from rising sea levels, extreme weather, etc., but who contributed least to the problem. They now have a powerful potential legal tool to seek redress from larger emitters. Imagine the international legal battles this could spark.
It could completely reshape climate negotiations and action.
It really could. Pushing beyond pledges to actual legal accountability. And significantly, the UN Court also declared that a healthy environment is a fundamental human right.
A human right.
Yes, further solidifying the legal and ethical imperative for climate action. It's a monumental step for environmental justice on a global scale.
Truly a potential game changer. Okay, shifting gears one last time in this section to personal well-being. That 10,000 steps a day goal. Maybe not the magic number.
It seems, maybe not. A new study suggests that aiming for just 7,000 steps a day, rather than the commonly promoted 10,000, could still significantly reduce your risk of serious health issues.
Like what kind of issues?
Things like cancer, dementia, and heart disease. The research indicated that for many people, the biggest jump in health benefits happens up to around the 7,000 or 8,000 step mark. After that, the additional benefits might level off somewhat.
So 7,000 might be a more achievable target for many people.
Exactly. It's a more attainable, maybe more sustainable goal. It makes incorporating daily activity feel less daunting, potentially leading to greater consistency, which is key for long-term health.
Good news for those of us who find hitting 10,000 steps a bit tough after a long day. Makes staying healthy feel a little less like climbing Mount Everest every day.
Precisely. Consistency over perfection.
Yes.
Cultural and sports highlights.
Okay, let's sprinkle in some cultural and sports highlights now. Round out the global picture, remind us of, creativity, perseverance, entertainment, the human spirit stuff. First, though, remember a true icon we lost recently.
Yes, sadly, the music world lost Ozzy Osbourne, the heavy metal godfather, legendary frontman of Black Sabbath. He passed away at 76.
A true legend. Tributes poured in, I imagine.
Absolutely. From music legends across all genres, Alice Cooper, Elton John, countless others, all highlighting his immense, unique impact on music and pop culture.
He was known for, some pretty wild stage antics, wasn't he? The Bat Incident?
Ah, yes, the infamous bat incident, biting the head off a bat during a performance in Iowa back in '82. It became this defining, almost mythical part of rock and roll lore, really cemented his Prince of Darkness image.
Probably not something Peter approved of, but definitely memorable.
Definitely memorable. But, despite that larger-than-life, often shocking public persona, those close to him often describe him as a man of surprising faith, deep personal complexities.
More to him than the headlines.
For sure. His final solo album, Ordinary Man, released not long before he passed, was incredibly honest. Explored regrets, his struggles with addiction, a real self-awareness, a true one-of-a-kind figure who really transcended the genre he helped create.
Indeed. Okay, onto the sporting arenas. Excitement building for the Euro 2025 women's football final.
Absolutely. Spain booked their place in the final in quite dramatic fashion. They beat Germany 1-0 in the semifinal.
How'd they score? Late goal.
Very late. Akana Bonmati scored in the 113th minute, deep into extra time, and apparently from an almost impossible angle. A real moment of magic.
Wow. So who do they face in the final?
They face England, which sets up this highly anticipated rematch of the 2023 Women's World Cup final.
Which Spain won, right. So England will be looking for revenge.
You bet. England's midfielder Mariona Caldente said she believes England have it inside them to win. Sets the stage for a really thrilling final.
And there's an inspiring backstory with the goal scorer, Bonmati.
A truly incredible story. Aitana Bonmati, she's the reigning Ballon d'Or winner, widely seen as the best female player in the world right now. She actually recovered from viral meningitis just before this tournament started.
Viral meningitis, that's serious.
Extremely serious. So her performance, especially scoring that crucial winning goal, it just highlights her remarkable resilience and talent. Took her from a hospital bed to hero status, as one report put it, in just a matter of weeks.
What a comeback. That's amazing. Testament to her dedication and the level of women's football now.
Absolutely. It's growing so fast.
Okay, other big sports news. Football transfers making waves. Rashford to Barcelona.
Yes, that was a significant move. Barcelona, the Spanish giants, signed Manchester United striker Marcus Rashford. It's initially a 12-month loan deal.
Did Rashford want the move?
He described the decision as easy to make, which suggests he was definitely looking for a new challenge or environment away from Manchester United.
And Liverpool made a big signing too.
Yes, English powerhouse Liverpool completed the signing of a promising young striker, Hugo Ekitike, from the German club Eintracht Frankfurt. The initial fee is reported at £69 million, a major investment in their attack.
£69 million.
Oh, wow.
Okay, cycling, the Tour de France.
Jonathan Milan, the Italian sprinter, secured his second stage victory in this year's tour. He won stage 17 in a powerful sprint finish, showcasing his strength.
Cricket, England versus India.
England gained a crucial advantage in the fourth test match against India, being played at Old Trafford in Manchester. This was largely due to an unfortunate injury to India's key wicketkeeper batsman, Rishabh Pant. His injury significantly altered the game's dynamics in England's favor.
Tough break for India. Darts. Luke Littler still making headlines.
The young sensation, yes. Luke Littler won a real thriller of a match to reach the World Match Play quarterfinals. He continues to show remarkable composure under pressure for someone so young.
Amazing talent. American football. Any preseason drama?
Some contract disputes brewing. Key defensive players Trey Hendrickson and Shamar Stewart are reportedly in contract disputes with the Cincinnati Bengals. Quarterback Joe Burrow described it as obviously disappointing, raising some concerns for the team's defense heading into the season.
Always something happening in the NFL offseason.
Yeah.
And rugby union. Ireland team changes.
Yes, a notable change in coach Andy Farrell's Ireland team. Aki replaced Tuipu Lotu in the lineup after Gary Ringrose had to withdraw due to a concussion. Just highlights the ongoing focus on player welfare and concussion protocols in rugby.
Absolutely. Critical issue in contact sports. Crime, justice, and human rights. Isolated incidents with broader echoes. Right, moving now into our final section, covering some specific incidents related to crime, justice, and human rights. These are often isolated events, but they can resonate with broader societal concerns, reminding us of, well, the fragility of life and the complexities of legal systems. Starting with some tragic sentencing news out of Idaho in the U.S.
Yes, Bryan Kohberger was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the horrific murders of 4 University of Idaho students back in 2022.
That case gripped the nation. Were there new details revealed during sentencing?
Yes, police records released revealed some truly horrifying new details about the brutality of the attacks, including that one victim, Xana Kernodle, was tragically stabbed over 50 times. The sentencing hearing was incredibly emotional, with powerful impact statements from the victims' families and the surviving roommates.
Oh, that must have been heartbreaking.
Unimaginably difficult. They spoke bravely about their profound loss and the lasting trauma inflicted by Kohberger's actions.
Such a tragedy. And another tragic incident reported in Northern Ireland.
Yes, a very sad situation there. A mother and her 2 young children died from gunshot wounds. Another man was found at the scene and is reported to be in critical condition.
Do they know what happened?
Details are still emerging as the investigation unfolds, but the community is understandably in deep shock and mourning over this devastating domestic tragedy.
Just awful.
Yeah.
There's an ongoing controversy related to the Air India crash.
Yeah.
About handling victims' remains.
Yes, a deeply sensitive issue. A victim's son came forward publicly, claiming he received the wrong remains following that tragic crash. This is despite India's foreign ministry stating that all remains were treated with dignity and that proper identification protocols were followed.
So, conflicting accounts. What's the concern here?
It raises serious and painful questions about the accuracy of the identification process in the aftermath of such a disaster, and just the respectful handling of victims' remains, which is absolutely crucial for grieving families trying to find closure. It's a very distressing situation for those involved.
Absolutely. Okay, shifting to a legal battle with international implications. Australian women suing Qatar Airways.
Yes, this is a significant development. A group of Australian women have won the right to sue Qatar Airways in Australian courts over deeply invasive searches they were subjected to at Doha Airport back in 2020.
What happened back in 2020?
An abandoned newborn baby was found in a bathroom at the airport. In response, authorities took women off several departing flights, including one to Sydney, and subjected them to forcible strip searches and invasive physical examinations to try and determine if any of them had recently given birth.
That sounds horrifying and deeply violating.
It drew widespread international condemnation at the time, and this court ruling now allows these women to proceed with their lawsuit against the airline in Australia.
What's the broader significance of this case?
It's seen as a crucial, potentially landmark precedent for international traveler rights and the conduct of airlines and airport authorities. It really highlights the need for accountability when security procedures become extremely invasive and potentially violate fundamental human rights, even in exceptional circumstances.
So it sends a message.
A clear message, yes, that such actions can lead to serious legal consequences. It emphasizes that while security is obviously paramount, it must be conducted with respect for individual dignity and within the bounds of international legal norms.
A really important case to watch. Okay, in entertainment-related legal news, the assistant accusing the rapper Ye, formerly Kanye West, of sexual assault.
Yes, the assistant who made those public accusations is now reportedly in hiding, according to news reports, presumably due to the intense media scrutiny and potential safety concerns. Yi, for his part, has vehemently denied all her claims, dismissing them as fantasy fiction.
A very public and messy dispute. And finally, in the UK, a major development in a long-running financial crime case. Rate-rigging convictions overturned.
That's right. Two former traders, Carlo Palumbo and Tom Hayes, secured a significant victory after a decade-long legal battle. Their convictions for rigging benchmark interest rates, specifically LIBOR, were quashed by the UK Court of Appeal.
The LIBOR scandal was huge news a decade ago. Why were the convictions overturned now?
The specific legal grounds are complex, but it often involves re-examination of evidence, trial procedures, or the interpretation of the law. Their successful appeal after such a long fight raises big questions about what happens next. For them, obviously, but also potentially for other traders who were convicted in the same scandal.
Could it open the door for more appeals?
It potentially could, yes. It highlights the complexities and the incredibly long legal battles that often surround these high-profile white-collar crime cases, and how initial convictions aren't always the final word.
The ever-evolving narrative.
So, wow, we have covered a lot of ground today. We journeyed from, those incredible leaps in space tech and AI, showcasing human ingenuity.
Truly amazing potential there.
And right into the thick of it. The high-stakes games of global politics, diplomacy, Washington, Ukraine, the Middle East, Asia. It's all interconnected.
Always playing out on multiple chessboards at once.
We felt the ebb and flow of economic forces hitting big companies, shaping trade deals, and of course, we touched on those enduring human stories, struggle, tragedy, but also resilience, sporting triumphs, things that inspire us.
And what's truly fascinating, isn't it, as we try to connect these seemingly disparate dots from all over the globe, is just how interconnected they actually are. A tech breakthrough in California can genuinely influence geopolitical strategy in Beijing or Brussels. An economic decision in one capital can have profound humanitarian consequences thousands of miles away.
It's never just one thing happening in isolation.
Exactly. Understanding these individual threads really helps us grasp the larger global tapestry, how it's continuously being woven, how each element influences and shapes the others in complex, often unpredictable ways.
It is a lot to take in, isn't it? And as we witness both these, monumental breakthroughs on one side and these profound challenges on the other, it leaves us, maybe leaves you, our listeners, as informed global citizens with a question, right?
What's the question?
What responsibilities do we bear in shaping the narrative that unfolds next? How can our deeper understanding of all these events, the good, the bad, the complex, how can that translate into meaningful action, or maybe just more critical thought, or even just more informed conversations in our own lives, our own communities?
That's a powerful question, because the world is in constant motion. It demands our attention, our understanding, staying informed, looking beyond the headlines, trying to grasp those underlying currents. That's the first crucial step, isn't it? Towards true understanding and thoughtful engagement.
Keep exploring, keep questioning.
Absolutely. Continue to engage with the world around you, because your informed perspective genuinely matters in that unfolding narrative.
Because curiosity, after all, it isn't just about collecting facts, is it? It's really the first step towards truly understanding this complex, messy, fascinating world we all share. Thank you so much for diving deep with us today.
Thanks for listening.